Hello there, Waltoneers. I'm Jack, and this is DSNY Newscast, or should I say DSNY Livestream or Livecast today, because once again Disney had its quarterly earnings call, and this is the first quarter earnings call for fiscal year 2024, and we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a ton of news, surprisingly so actually. Oftentimes out of these earnings calls they can be a little bit boring. It's just a lot of financial numbers and stuff like that, and just the nitty gritty of everything like that standpoint. But today, it actually gave us quite a lot of news to get into. So before we actually get into the financial numbers, because I know everyone wants to hear, how well Disney's doing, but let's begin by just very quickly. I just want to very quickly begin with just the headline news, which is, by the way, if I'm looking over here, it's because this is where the screen is. Yes, today, this is what was announced. The Walt Disney Company and Epic Games announced that Disney's going to be investing $1.5 billion into Epic Games. Now, that sounds like a huge equity stake, but in reality, it's not a massive equity stake. It's a minority equity stake into Epic Games. Epic Games is obviously the games publisher that produces Fortnite, the worldwide phenomenon that is Fortnite. And they are investing $1.5 billion into this game studio, basically. And they will be making a kind of Disney universe. That's what Bob Iger said recently. He said there'll be a Disney universe of some sort within Epic Games. So we'll dive into what that actually means in a minute and what we know so far on that topic. And then the other news coming out of this earnings call was that Moana 2 has been announced. This is going to be in theatres in November 27th. That's the, just after Thanksgiving. That'll be that weekend. And that's some massive news as well. Moana 2 coming to theatres as a sequel. So that's some big news as well. Okay. And with that being said, I would also like to hear all of your questions and thoughts and everything on the earnings call. If you have any questions, send them my way. Oh, and one other thing that just very quickly I want to bring up. It was mentioned in passing that about the $60 billion investment that Disney's going to be supposedly investing in the parks over the next 10 years. It was announced that 70%, roughly 70% of that $60 billion, which makes it around $42 billion if my maths is correct there, will be used on increasing the capacity at the parks, e.g. expansions at the parks. So we're going to see them spend around $42 billion, not just at Walt Disney World, but Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland. Obviously, Tokyo Disney's its own thing by itself with the Oriental Land Company. And then you've also got Disney Cruise Line as well, and any other ventures that they want to do. So very interesting from that standpoint. I see a lot of comments coming in. Right, I just want to shout out some people very quickly. Some people are saying, Drew the Disney Dude is there. He'll be helping moderate the chat, I think. Hi there, Drew. Mr. Seymour Duck is there. Jeanette Sanchez is there. Main Street News is there. Hello there. Fantastic channel, by the way. Covers a lot of Disneyland Paris news, so highly recommend checking out Main Street News. And also, Drew the Disney Dude has also been doing a lot of good videos as well on YouTube, so check out those videos as well. And yeah, so let's, I think there's a super chat. I've got to read out the super chat. Give me a second. Right, here then. Here we go. Let me just read this one out here. It's from Fangs the Wolf. $5. Thank you for the super chat there. Fangs. Did not expect the 10% minority stake into Epic Games. I guess this explains all Disney characters that are rumoured to be coming to Fortnite. Yeah, so not only are we going to see further Disney character integration within Fortnite from Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, Disney, all the Fox assets as well within Fortnite. But this is actually, from the way they've described it, it's going to be more of an ecosystem that's going to allow for e-commerce, allow for even physical goods potentially in the future as well, sharing content of certain types. They didn't really elaborate all too much on that. But they also, it's a way of sharing and being a community online, which is very interesting from the standpoint of, if Disney's trying to tap back into that younger generation, then games and Fortnite and things like that is where they are at. And Iger even said he was kind of shocked to see the amount of screen time that, the 11 to 18-year-old demographic, that kind of demographic, teenage years demographic, spend using games and specifically Fortnite. So it's a very interesting play from that standpoint. That Disney's wanting to reach a new, younger generation with their IP, with their content, with their characters, and then that should hopefully blend back into the movies and Disney Plus and stuff like that. So it's an interesting one. Right, let's get to the earnings, and then we'll talk a bit more about the announcements. First of all, gross revenue was $23.5 billion, and that's a flat year, basically, year-over-year change, 0% year-over-year change there. It's not necessarily a bad thing, considering we've done a lot of cost-cutting and stuff like that, but the operating income itself, you look there, 27% year-over-year change up. So 27% increase for the operating income for the quarter for Q1 2024 versus Q1 2023, 3.87 billion. So that's a positive note there. A quarter, 27% change is pretty positive. Then the next one is parks and experiences, $9.1 billion. And once again, I just want to make a point here. Once again, the parks and experiences segment is making a ton of money for Disney. It's the revenue generator that's really driving Disney at the moment. And a lot of people don't realize, just how much, parks and experiences basically keeping Disney afloat at the moment, considering, the lackluster year they had in terms of streaming revenue and obviously the box office returns as well. But this is a big deal. So $9.1 billion of gross revenue there. And then operating income, way to look at this is operating income is net. So net is what they get. And that's $3.1 billion. That's an 8% year-over-year change as well. So for them to continually increase the operating income, that's impressive. But then again, we kind of knew that from the standpoint of the parks are making a ton of money. Disney needs to start investing in the parks in a big way, and hopefully, as we've heard, the $60 billion investment, they'll start to do that. But, they need to get on with it as soon as possible. Entertainment, gross revenue was $9.98 billion. That's a 7% year-over-year change down. So that's, not a great outlook there. But the operating income is very low. It's 100% improved over the last year, which was around 370 million or so in the same quarter. But we've got the operating income here at 874 million. So that just goes to show that they didn't really make that much money that they got to take home from the overall box office results for Q1, which began in September and ends in December. So, we've can see there, and when I say begins in September, I mean end of September, September 30th to December 30th. So we can see there that, the entertainment division is still not doing the business that it should do. And in many ways, entertainment suffering the way it has these past few years, since the pandemic really, is left Disney quite vulnerable to people like Nelson Pounce to make an argument about Disney's profits and performance. And we'll get into the Nelson Pounce talk if you want in a little bit, but I do want to just get through all the news as well. Then we got sports, which is a new division. So Disney separated up into parks, experiences, and then you've got entertainment and media, and then you've also got sports. They separated sports by itself. I'm guessing that's because they didn't want the sports numbers to pull down the rest of the entertainment figures. So by breaking that away, as you can see here, they made $4.83 billion in revenue, but in operating income, it was a loss of $100 million. Let me double check, $103 million there we can see. So that's even though it is a 37% increase, they still lost money. It just means that they lost less money than they did last year. Which isn't a great move, but I'm guessing they want to break apart sports because sports and the sports rights and ESPN subscriber numbers, it's not a great look that will drag down the rest of the entertainment division. So they want to break that apart, especially as they're going to be launching, all new sports streaming ventures. Like we've heard recently, it was announced yesterday that Warner Brothers Discovery, Fox Sports, and Disney, are going to be, and ESPN at Disney, I should say, are all going to be grouping together to form a sort of new streaming service. Now, I know a lot of people have said this just sounds like Hulu. But I'm just trying to work out, have I got a graphic for this? Let me just double check. No, I haven't. So the fact is that they're creating this new joint trio streaming service for sports, and they think it'll be a great way to kind of monopolize the market, take a real big share of the market. And I think Disney's doing this, and they're teaming up with Warner Brothers Discovery and Fox Sports, because this then will give them more negotiating power. And when it comes to sports rights, when it comes to the NBA and NFL and MLB and stuff like that, and MLS, all of these different sports leagues, when it comes to these rights renewals, they will then be able to say, hey, look, we're Disney, we're Warner Brothers, we're also Fox, we've got this huge streaming service here. Bring it to where it will get the most amount of eyes, not just where there's the most amount of money. So I think it will help them, and it will also mean that if they want to bid for the sports rights against the likes of Amazon and Netflix and Apple, then obviously Amazon and Apple have huge checkbooks, have huge bank balances, have huge cash reserves that they can use. And by having Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox all together, it means that when they do make a bid for these different sports rights deals and stuff like that in the future, it will share the cost across all three divisions. They won't have to take a piece of it, and so therefore it minimises the risk. By joining together, minimises the risk, but also increases exposure. So I can see the reason why they've done it. It just does seem like they are reinventing cable in a way. Which I've seen a lot of people say, and they're not wrong. It does sound like they've reinvented cable. So let me just pull it back onto the news side of things with the earnings results. Parks division. So here we go. We've got a breakdown of the experiences division. By the way, sorry if it seems a little bit orange on camera. I know I'm looking a little bit Oompa Loompa-like, so I'm just going to open that up there, and hopefully that will help balance out the light a little bit better. Okay, coming back to the parks detailed results here. So we can see domestic and international. Domestic is what's pulling in the most, which isn't a great surprise there. You can see operating income of domestic parks, so that's Disneyland and Walt Disney World, $2 billion. Of operating income, which is, yes, it's 2% down on the previous quarter, but that's still a positive result from my opinion. It's still it's negligible. 2% is negligible. And by the way, none of this is financial advice. It's just for entertainment purposes. I'm just breaking it down from a business standpoint and a news standpoint, so we can all have a chat about it. International, 328 million. Now that 328. So they're actually making a profit there in international. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 100% up on what it was the year before. We can also see here that the consumer products division is 700 million. So that was up as well, 4%. So overall, the experiences division is doing okay. But I think this comes to my bigger point here, and that is that Disney need to get on with these announcements. They need to get on with some projects, and they need to get things going, because at the moment we're staring down beyond 2025 with nothing really at the moment. And for all of the talk about the investment, it's all well and good saying you're going to invest, but if it's investing too late, then you're kind of catching up. So they need to get on with these investments in the parks as soon as possible, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Danny Horningold says here, thank you for the super chat there, Danny. Just dropping this to support Jack. Thanks for all the great insights. Oh, well, thank you, Danny. Thanks for that. I also want to read out some other ones. Let's have a look through here. We got Jeanette Sanchez says, I really hope to have Villain Mountain in Disney World 5, the 5th theme park. Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to do as a 5th theme park. Not necessarily just villains, but something else, combine it with some other lands as well. But I don't necessarily think a 5th theme park is round the corner at the moment. They need to just expand overall. We need to expand capacity at Magic Kingdom specifically, because that's the number 1 park in the world. But they also need to expand capacity at Animal Kingdom, make it a proper full-day park. I know with the hours and the animals and stuff like that, the operating hours, that it makes it difficult, but they need something more compelling there that will drag that park into the night time. So therefore, they don't need to rely on the safari, Kilimanjaro Safari, and all the different animal exhibits, because obviously it'll be nighttime. They need to have more attractions at Animal Kingdom. They need more attractions at Hollywood Studios and Epcot. They need them just across the board. They need to add capacity. And I actually did a video last year talking about the real threat that Epic Universe posed to Walt Disney World. And obviously it's going to steal some market share away from Walt Disney World. But I spoke about at the time the labour market shortage that will almost come about because of Epic Universe. Because Epic Universe is going to require tens of thousands of people to operate that park. And when you take tens of thousands of people out of the local Orlando economy, out of the local Orlando job market, and assign them to Epic Universe, then that makes it more difficult for Disney to then further expand in the future. Because if they want to do like a 14-acre land expansion like they did with Galaxy's Edge, they're going to need thousands more cast members to then operate that new land. So they can't truly expand. So because of Epic Universe, it's going to put a bit of a squeeze on what Disney can do. And I think, although we need to see more capacity at the parks, I think they're going to end up having to do more retheming and replacing of existing areas. And that's the reason why the Beyond Big Thunder idea is so exciting, because that is new land, it's new territory, it's untouched. And that, if they do expand back there on the level of Galaxy's Edge, 14 acres, 17 acres they got back there, then that means that they'll need thousands more cast members and thousands more jobs in the local Orlando market, and they can add extra capacity to Magic Kingdom, and that just boosts the revenues overall. So before we start looking at a 5th park, which I do think in couple of decades time, or by the end of 2030s, they'll be looking at trying to do a 5th park if they've truly expanded all the 4 parks the way they should. Then to unlock the next level of revenue, they will have to do a 5th park, because then they can ramp up the ticket prices again. But from that standpoint, I think Epic Universe poses a big threat to Disney and their future plans, and they're going to have to get smart about how they want to expand. Let's come back to some of these other. Let's come back to some of this other news here. I want to make sure if there's any super chats coming, I just want to make sure I read them. Albert says, Elon Musk is hinting he wants to buy Disney with Nelson Pounce. Yeah, okay. I was wondering how long it would be until we got to this. So thanks, Albert, for the super chat there. Let's address it. Let's address the Elon Musk thing. I think personally, let's put it back on the screen actually. Give me a second. I think personally, Elon Musk at the moment is trolling Disney. He's trolling Bob Iger. Bob Iger decided to pull Disney's advertising off Twitter following Musk's statements on the Israel and Palestine thing, and the whole conflict of the war going on over there. The whole issue of that is that once Iger decided to go that direction of pulling the advertising off, it wasn't just him. It was also a bunch of different companies. Warner Brothers Discovery did so as well. Apple did. Amazon did. Loads of different companies did. And yet, Musk decided to single out Iger. And I think it's because they were both at the same conference back in, I think it was December or late November. And Iger was asked a direct question on it, and he answered directly on it and said, until we see something differently, we're gonna keep advertising off. We're gonna keep using it as a platform. Didn't say they're not going to use it as a platform, but they're going to keep their advertising away from it. And Musk then decided to, you probably have already seen, he told Iger to go F himself, basically. And regarding the advertising, I think Musk was annoyed at the fact that, I can use Iger as the kind of the figurehead of all of these companies, because it's hard if you're an individual and you're trying to attack 20 companies who have boycotted you. it's hard to then name them all and go after all of them. But it's easier to go after just one. And I think he went after Iger and Disney because, number one, Disney's a bit weak at the moment. Let's be honest about it. Disney has had stronger days. They are in this kind of culture war. And I think Musk knew that by attacking Iger and Disney, he would get a lot of clicks, a lot of likes. He would, really invigorate a part of the internet that would have his back, and he wanted that support behind him and Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and he wanted that kind of groundswell of support, and that's the reason why he's going after Disney. And I do think Musk, he's done a lot of companies. Tesla, PayPal, SpaceX, the Boring Company, his Boring Company, Hyperloop, I think it might be the same thing. But, he's had a lot of success with these companies, and now he's taking on Twitter and X. And at this time right now, he is looking to try and use these kind of issues to try and draw more conversation on Twitter and X. And I see the reason why he's doing it, because if the conversation's happening on Twitter, then eventually that means he can increase the ad buys and he can make Twitter more profitable in the long run. So I see the reason why he's wanting to do it, but at the end of the day, I do think Musk is just trolling Disney. Now, when it comes to Nelson Peltz, and let's also talk about Ike Perlmutter, these two, I think Nelson Peltz, personally, this is just my own opinion, I think he is seen an easy target with Disney. He's seen a company that's been weakened in the last couple of years through bad leadership, bad executive decisions, poor leadership. Bob Chapek, with the poor leadership from Bob Chapek, and just the fact that Iger up and left before he kind of gave over the CEO ship to Chapek, and then he kind of stayed on an executive chairman role, but. Now, he was like, I can see what's happening with the pandemic here. Do I want to go down as the guy who had to furlough thousands of cast members? And I think he decided to step back and let, Chapek, the next person along, take the brunt of that. But I also think Chapek did an awful lot of damage within his short tenure. And I think a lot of people who go about saying that Chapek was just the scapegoat for Iger, Chapek was the puppet, he was used by Iger as the face of this whole thing. I don't think so at all. I think Chapek was trying to get his grip on the company and shape the company in his image, because after all, it's well known that when new CEOs take on companies, they have around 18 months to truly get a grasp of it and try and make their mark, and that's what Chapek was trying to do. And he put his friend and his longtime associate in charge, Kareem Daniel, in charge of media distribution, and that angered a lot of the studios. He also angered Hollywood, Chapek did, with the Scarlett Johansson thing and the way that he was just moving movies to Disney+. I think that was a short-term, short-sighted strategy. He annoyed movie theaters, because movie theaters were like, these movies were promised to us, and then they were put on Disney+. And I think his such desperation for short-term profitability really damaged an awful lot of relationships that Disney had spent years and decades building up within Hollywood and media and business in general and Wall Street. And I think it's therefore now Disney's having to restart a lot of these relationships. And it's just amazing how quickly you can burn through goodwill like that. I can also see, sorry, let me just adjust the camera. I can just see very quickly. What is that in the frame there? I think it's, it's the camera mode. There we go. Got it out of screen. Right. Let me just readjust it. Give me a second. There we go. And for everyone who doesn't think that this is a real set, it's it's plastic. It's a real set. It's not a green screen here. So let's keep going with this. I also saw another one come in here that said, just imagine, said, thank you for the super chat there, $20, wow. Yes, trolling, but also taking Gina Carano's legal case against Disney. Yeah, I agree. So, him taking on this legal case of Gina Carano's against Disney, So it's a complicated one, and the way I feel about this is that Disney firing Gina Carano, they're entitled to do that. They're entitled to fire anyone they want in terms of if they don't align with their values of Gina Carano said what she said, and they told her from a media promotion standpoint, take it down because you're working for Lucasfilm and The Mandalorian, and she didn't want to do that, and so therefore they fired her. Now, this legal case that he's taking it on. It's an unusual one because Musk said back in, I think it was last year, he said, anybody who gets fired from a job because of what they said on Twitter, I will support your legal case. And that's what he's doing. But the things that Gina Carano said were before Musk took over Twitter. That this happened in 2021. I think 2021, maybe 2020, 2021. She was fired around then, and Musk took on Twitter in 2022. So for him to support a case against Disney, which is a historical, case of someone getting fired from what they said on Twitter, it clearly is Musk trying to poke the bear. He's trying to annoy Disney and annoy Iger. And Gina Carano is not seeking a lot of money. I think she's seeking around $70 million, if I read that correctly in the lawsuit. So there's not a huge amount of money here, and I think Disney, they should have just settled it. They shouldn't have let it get to this stage, but Musk has a lot of money at his disposal. He doesn't have the money to buy Disney outright, okay? I think Musk's current net worth is around $194 billion or something like that, and Disney's worth at the moment around $188 or so billion dollars. So he wouldn't be able to buy, even though it seems like he could, he wouldn't be able to necessarily do it because a lot of his money is tied up in stock in Tesla, in Twitter, in SpaceX. He wouldn't want to deplete all of that. He would have to sell off all his stake in all these other companies to then cash out and buy Disney. He isn't buying Disney. But could he use billions of dollars to just mess with Disney? And I think he could. And I think if he's been seen recently with Nelson Pounce, that's possible. He might be using some of his money to give Nelson Pounce more shares to put him on the board of Disney because he wants to provoke Bob Iger back and cause issues for Disney. But if you're a Disney fan and you love going to the parks and stuff, I don't think any of this is really a positive look for Disney. I think, Disney's right now in the very, it's very much in the public eye of everybody trying to, talk about Disney. And Disney needs to take a step back and they just need to focus on what they're good at, which used to be storytelling, and it is still storytelling and the strength of their storytelling, and parks, immersion, things like that. So yeah, Drew here has written, she seeks a court order that would force Lucasfilm to recast her in The Mandalorian and at least $75,000 in punitive damages. So yeah, like I said, it was around $70,000. I think Disney should have just paid it out, to be honest. It's not worth it for all of this. I just also want to make a point here. Disney has also announced that Taylor Swift's version of the Eras Tour DVD or show or whatever it was, the tour DVD or tour film is going to be coming to Disney Plus next month, and it's going to have bonus content on it as well, and that will be a big play for Disney Plus. By the way, I don't even think I've even mentioned the Disney Plus numbers. Let's very quickly mention the Disney Plus numbers here. Then we'll come back to talking about the proxy fight and everything like that. 111.3 million paid subscribers worldwide, 38.3 million paid subscribers in India. I like to break that out because it seems like a big number, but India pay a lot less for Disney Plus Hotstar. So their revenue per user is a lot lower than what they would get from the US and EU. And then here we can see they're down 400,000 subscribers in the domestic market of the US and Canada, North America basically. 65.2 million subscribers, and they're down almost 1 million in the rest of the world. And then they're actually up in India. So but that won't be generating much more revenue just because they're up 700,000. But that's where we stand with the Disney Plus numbers there. Let me just also read out some of these comments because I'm seeing a lot of comments going. Sorry, everybody, I can't necessarily read out every single one of these comments. What do you think will replace Stitch's Great Escape? I personally want to see a Dueling the Coma Boomerang. I don't think there's necessarily enough space for that there, and I don't think they'll be tearing down the building if they're going to do it. The reason why they wouldn't tear down the building is that when it comes to these things, it's easier for them to, from a tax perspective and a economic perspective, they can, if they're using existing buildings that are already there, then they can see it as an upgrade to an existing one rather than a fresh build. It's just different tax incentives for doing it. It's what Universal does. It's what Disney does. It's the reason why we saw them keep the Elon's Energy Venture building the Universal Energy building and then build the extra building at the back. It's because by repurposing an existing structure, it changes the way that they can account it over a period of time and the numbers of it all. So I think you would see something go into Stitch's Great Escape. Now what it is, I think I've said personally recently that in a recent video, which you haven't seen, if you haven't seen already, it's on like rumors of Walt Disney World, and I said I would love to see The Incredibles in Tomorrowland. I think that's an IP that would work really well within Tomorrowland. And I say it's an IP because they're going to do an IP. If I had my personal choice, I would like them to integrate elements of the Tomorrowland movie from 2015 into Tomorrowland and make it kind of a show where you stand around the center and it all kind of like a big virtual dome kind of presentation. But they're not going to necessarily do that because Tomorrowland in 2015 didn't make any money at the box office. It bombed massively at the box office. That's the George Clooney and Hugh Laurie movie. I loved it, but it didn't make any money at the box office. So I think Incredibles will be a safe bet for them. Someone said here, so he will take on Roseanne Barr's. So will he take on Roseanne Barr's case for a tweet and getting fired? Love your channel, Jack. Yeah, it's an interesting development there because I've also seen that she tweeted at Elon Musk saying, she's got a case. If Musk is going to start doing this, it's just another legal thing that Disney's going to be distracted with. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing from a Disney fan perspective. Everyone calling at the moment for Iger to be fired. I see a lot of calls at the moment from people saying Iger should be gone, he should be fired, he's doing a terrible job. Look, Iger's not done a brilliant job since coming back. I think he's found that it's been a lot harder. Well, when I say not a brilliant job, I mean it's been a lot harder since he's come back than what he thought it was and what state of the company was. And so he hasn't been able to come in and just, King Midas, just the golden touch and just make everything perfect again. A lot went wrong during that period. Even the short stint, he left Disney at the end of 2021, and then he came back in November. And just that short period of time, a lot went wrong in terms of Bob Chapek truly having control of the reins at Disney. And he's had to fix an awful lot. And I don't think he's done it nearly as quickly as we all kind of expected, but I think he also didn't expect it to be nearly as much of a mess. But anyone who's saying right now Bob Iger should be fired, I think they're completely wrong, because from the standpoint of a Wall Street perspective, the kind of panic that would send to Wall Street about Disney, that Disney's basically had a turnover at the top of the company, the CEO, change 3 times in the space of 4 years. Basically 4 years. It would signal all kinds of panic. This company's out of control in terms of no one's running it. And I think they should take their time, find a proper successor like they're doing. Iger steps down in 2026, and then we can move forward in a new direction. Being rash and getting rid of Iger now would be a terrible thing. He's a safe pair of hands. He may not be doing things nearly as fast as we would like, but he is steadying the ship. And after all the executive change that we've seen, they can't afford any more executive change. That's just the truth of the matter. They can't. So anybody saying that Iger should be fired right now doesn't understand that from a business standpoint, that would signal huge panic to Wall Street, and shake a lot of confidence in the Walt Disney Company, and then you would start to see the vultures start to circle, because I think then there'd be all sorts of bids for certain parts of the Walt Disney Company. People would try, maybe a green mail perspective, a tactic like they did in the 1980s. Sol Seinberg, I think it was. I can't remember the name. The guy who did the green mail thing. In the 1980s, we would see something like that. We'd see them trying to break apart certain parts of the Walt Disney Company. I also know Blackwell's Capital, who are also trying to get board members onto the Disney board, recently suggested breaking apart Disney into separate divisions, breaking apart the real estate aspect of Disney away from the entertainment state. And I think what they meant by that is the parks division against the media division. Now, I'm not wholly opposed to that, because the parks division as it stands, it makes billions of dollars by itself. And if you broke apart the parks business and parks and resorts business as its own company, it would be hugely profitable, and they'd be able to invest those profits back into parks. But I think that would leave Disney, the actual entertainment standpoint, very weak, unless it was bought up by a bigger company. If it was just spun off by itself, it would leave it very weak and very vulnerable. And that's not a good thing if you continually want to see the licensing of these characters back into the parks, which is the way that the Oriental Land Company work their situation out. So, I don't think that would be a particularly positive thing to do either. I want to get through some more of these comments. Everyone's, Mr. Seymour Duck has said, oh yeah, I didn't address the Roseanne Barr thing. Yeah, it's potentially she could be added to the lawsuit, and I think this would be a much bigger thing then if it's Gina Carano and Roseanne Barr. It would be a nightmare from a media standpoint, from a publicity standpoint, and it'd be a very difficult one for Disney to thread that needle. But yeah, especially they've got lawsuits against the Florida government and Governor Ron DeSantis on a state level and a federal level. So it's tying up a lot of Disney's litigation at the moment, and that requires huge resources, and especially with Mickey and Steamboat Willie entering the public domain this year. It means that they would be more tied up in more litigation, and the litigation would only go so far. The lawyers, the legal department can only do so much, and it would mean that they'd also be open to not being able to go after copyright infringement and stuff like that. And Mickey Mouse is the most valuable character to the Walt Disney Company. Mr. Seymour Duck says $10. Thank you for that. The more I look into it, the bigger this Disney and Epic Games collaboration is. This can technically be another tentpole of the revenue stream in Disney's flywheel. Disney doing the metaverse. So yeah, there was talk years ago under Chapek in 2022 of the metaverse, and at the time I kind of dismissed it as Bob Chapek's not got a vision on this thing. He's literally noticed that the metaverse has become a new trendy thing, and he wants to mention it because he's desperately clawing for a strategy for the future. And we can all see how the metaverse played out with Meta and the way that they rebranded, Facebook to Meta and stuff like that. Metaverse isn't necessarily dead entirely, but I don't think the metaverse, the way that I think the actual terminology itself will have to be retired. Metaverse will have to be retired because when, from a sheer marketing perspective, when you announce something big like the metaverse and it doesn't take hold and the technology is not quite there and the audience and the consumers and the people aren't ready to adapt and adopt it, then that means that you kind of missed your opportunity to coin a new phrase and make something new, paradigm shifting. But the concept behind it, I think, will still exist in the future. I think the concept of this online interactive community where people can join together in this virtual space, I think that's real, but I think they'll have to rebrand it to something else. And this Disney universe that they're talking about in collaboration with Epic Universe, not in their collaboration with Epic Games, which, by the way, just the fact that now we've got Disney and Epic Games and we've got Universal's Epic Universe, God, it's a lot of epic, isn't it? A lot of epic things to be talking about. Which, by the way, why has no one mentioned so far that Universal's Epic Universe? I think that looks like a fantastic park. It really does look the immersion of that park and the level of detail that they're going to with it. It looks incredible. But the name is just one part which from a branding perspective, it just annoys me a little bit, because like Universal's Epic Universe sounds like if Disney called a new park Disney's Awesome Disneyland. It just doesn't sound right. And I think, they could have gone with something else than Epic Universe, but that's the name they've gone with. But anyway, so Disney and Epic Games, the collaboration, like Mr. Seymour Duck here has said, the collaboration is much bigger than a lot of people are even thinking at the moment. Now, I've actually got a statement. So this is the photo that they kind of revealed with the press release. And it's just a piece of concept art so far, but it kind of shows you the level of this Disney universe, this kind of gameplay ecosystem that they're going to be creating here. You've got a kind of streaming town. You've got all the major studios there. I can see, Disney, all different types of Disney IP and content. We can see, I think that's Stitch's rocket ship there. We can see Neverland. We can see Star Wars. The Battle on Hoth. In the background, we can see the Death Star, and the top right we can see Pandora. It's just this is just obviously the equivalent to like blue sky artwork for what this thing could be, but it's just demonstrating the amount of IP and characters and content and worlds that could be explored within a Disney universe. Now this is the statement. The Walt Disney Company and Epic Games will collaborate on an all-new games and entertainment universe that will further expand the reach of beloved Disney stories and experiences. Disney will also invest $1.5 billion to acquire an equity stake in Epic Games alongside the multi-year project. So, that's a lot there. Disney will also invest $1.5 billion into Epic Games. Now, it's important to note that Epic Games was part of a Disney Accelerator program a couple of years ago. When I say a couple of years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago. And so Disney's already had some sort of investment in Epic Games. They're just increasing their equity stake to $1.5 billion. And then it says the new persistent universe will offer a multitude of opportunities for consumers to play, watch, shop, and engage with content, characters, and stories from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar, and more. Players, gamers, and fans will be able to create their own stories and experiences, express their fandom in a distinctly Disney way, and share content with each other in ways that they love. So it says a lot, but it doesn't really say a lot. It's one of these ones where like it sounds impressive, but we don't actually have any hard details on what this actually will end up looking like. The way that Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, kind of phrased it, he said, the Fortnite communities meet Disney. And so are we going to see kind of a Fortnite Disney version, basically, but with an e-commerce, streaming aspect to it as well, which would be pretty big. And it's also will be very interesting to see in what shape will this take. Is this going to take a VR standpoint? Is this going to happen from a working with Apple Vision Pro? I doubt that, because Epic Games have sued Apple recently over not being able to upsell their own the credits within the App Store because they don't want Apple to take a 30% cut of the revenue. And by doing that, there's bad blood between Epic Games and Apple. And so I know Disney's wanting to go all in on the Apple Vision Pro, but also if there's bad blood between Epic Games and Apple, maybe Disney can act as the bridge, the negotiator, the peacemaker between the two. But I think Disney's going to have a tough time trying to convince Epic Games to develop for the Apple Vision Pro, unless the fact that Disney's involved in Iger's relationship with with Apple in the past means that he can negotiate some sort of special deal for Epic Games when it comes to Fortnite on the App Store as well. So it'll be interesting from that perspective. But yeah, that's a very very interesting development there. If there's any more questions, I know that I kind of briefly touched on the Nelson Pounce try and fund thing with the Investor Day. So the Investor Day is happening on April 3rd. It's going to be big. This is going to be explosive, this Investor Day. So at the moment, the cards are being sent out. You've got the white card, which is to vote on. By the way, just up front, I don't own any Disney shares. I'm not trying to sway, anybody one way or the other. Not financial advice. I'm just talking on the prospect from a Disney fan's perspective, much like many of you probably as well. So yeah, when it comes to the Trian Fund management stuff, wait, I just seen something here about Epic Games. Oh yeah. When it comes to the Trian Fund management, Nelson Pounce is trying to get back on the board again. I think personally, he's in it clearly for the money, for the profitability. He wants to. Last year, the campaign was all about restoring the magic, and what ended up getting restored was the dividends. And I think he was pretty happy with that. The ownership stake that he took in the company, the millions of dollars that he took in the company, gave him a good little return on that, and he was quite happy with the amount of money he got back out. But then, when Disney's stock really tanked during the summer because of the writer's strike, the actor's strike, all the controversy that was surrounding, the lawsuits and stuff like that, and then on top of everything else, you also had, on top of all of that, you have the writers, actors strike, and then you also have the movie business not doing very well for Disney. So the stock price plummeted quite a bit. And I think then Nelson Pounce was like, wow, I can make more money out of this. If I increase my share, I can take a bit more money out of this. And there's, lots of investors do this. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But where I think the line is crossed here is from a Disney fan perspective. I don't see how people are not seeing through the co-opting of the Disney fans' legitimate gripes with Disney at the moment. We are the Disney fans. We are the ones who care the most about the Walt Disney Company and the future of this company. I want to make sure the Walt Disney Company exists so me and my son can enjoy Disney in a decade's time. I can take him to his first Disney movie. I want to make sure that he can go to Disney World and he can enjoy the parks and everything like that. And so I don't want Disney to be ripped apart. I don't want people to just come and sit on the board who don't really have any experience talking about media and entertainment. And that's also looking at the existing board. I think the existing board, yes, they serve some dual purposes on branding and stuff like that, but I think Disney needs to reevaluate their own board of directors, and shrink it down and make it more of a mind group of people who actually understand what Disney's about. I would even put some former Imagineers on the Disney board, because they're the people who understand creative within the parks. I would put some studio execs on the Disney board. Creatives who understand how Hollywood works. I would put, people who you've already got enough, the people like, the guy from I think it's Gap, isn't it? Came over, and he's now. Let me just double check this. It's the. I think it's. Let me just double check who's on the board at the moment. I don't have those things off the top of my head. So give me a sec. Leadership. Here we go. So yeah, we've got. Give me a sec. Board of directors. Yeah, Mark Parker. I think he came over from, is it Gap or is it, Nike. He came over from Nike. That's it. He's the chairman of the board. Now, from Nike, although Disney's not in the consumer goods business of selling shoes and trainers and sneakers and things like that, he brings a lot of branding and partnership ability to the Disney board. But, there's a lot of people on here who don't necessarily have completely transferable skills to offer Disney, I don't think anyway. And I think it would be better served if Disney took some people off the board and put people on there who are, number one, currently working at Disney, a bit like Iger is, and he's on the board, and have people who bring a different background from creative to the board, because I think the board don't understand creative. And the people that are being nominated, Nelson Pounce, he's a finance guy. He doesn't know creative like that. His background is an activist investor. He goes into companies, he cuts costs, he does this, he does that, and that's what he does. When it comes to Jay Rizzullo, who is being nominated alongside Nelson Pounce, I think Nelson Pounce is very smart to try and do that. Oh wait, sorry, Drew's saying, did I see a super chat from somebody? Give me a second. Just want to make sure I'll catch everybody. Yeah, we got a super chat here from Trey that says, "Hey Jack, would love to know your thoughts on an overhaul to the animation courtyard. In my opinion, it's such a missed opportunity for expansion. I'm pretty happy Little Mermaid is coming back though." Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, Trey. Just very quickly, I want to say that, like, you know, Jay Rizzullo coming to the board, he was the parks chair from like 09 to I think 05 to 09. And if you look at that period of time in the Disney parks, hardly anything happened. Now, obviously at the moment within the Disney parks, you know, not much is happening either under Josh D'Amaro. Yes, we've seen some things open like Ratatouille and Guardians of the Galaxy and Tron and Galactic Star Cruiser, you know, things like that have all opened, but under you know, Josh D'Amaro, but they weren't his initiatives, and he hasn't brought forth his initiatives yet. Now, when it comes to the period of time that Jay Rizzullo was Parks chair, yes, you saw Toy Story Mania and you saw Expedition Everest, but that was kind of in the works before he came in. Toy Story Mania, yes, was kind of his thing he can take ownership for, and Cars Land maybe as well, and a bit of New Fantasyland. But when it comes to stuff like Galaxy's Edge, Pandora, Toy Story Land, and then all the other expansions that we saw, all the other level of stuff, a lot of that got started under Tom Staggs. So I don't think Jay Rizzullo is going to offer much to the Disney board either, in my opinion, from a Disney fan perspective. I don't want him on the Disney board. I want more creatives. I think someone like Jon Favreau should be given a board seat. Someone who understands the creative aspect of Hollywood. He should be given a board seat. You know, I would even let Kevin Feige sit on the board from a creative standpoint. I would look to my previous, you know, Imagineers and maybe, hey, invite someone like Joe Rody or Tony Baxter back to sit on the board who have experience within Imagineering and can be a voice for Imagineering and the Disney parks and what's best for the Disney parks when it comes to having a board meeting. They can then voice, hey, we need to be more creative in this aspect. You know, they're eating our lunch, Epic Universe down the road are. You know, they need to do these kind of things. I don't think Nelson Pounce is the savior that people are trying to make out that he is from a Restoring the Magic standpoint. I think it's a fantastic name. Restoring the Magic sounds fantastic, but a lot of the things that have been put forward there, I don't think, if from a Disney fan perspective, it sounds like it's mirroring what we want, you know, more capital in the parks. But there's no strategy of how to actually invest in this capital. There's no detail on, like, you know, they need to actually expand capacity. They don't just need to add capital, they need to expand capacity. They need to make the Disney difference matter again. They need to create original rides, because creating original rides is original IP that then they could potentially spin off into a Disney Plus series in the future, or movie franchise like Pirates of the Caribbean. They need to do things in a different way, and I don't think the Restoring the Magic campaign really gets to the heart of what people. And then you've got Blackwell's Capital as well. I just want to bring up these. Their suggestions aren't very good either. So from a Disney fan perspective, I'm not a shareholder. This ain't financial advice. But when it comes to seeing, from a Disney fan's perspective, what's happening with Nelson Pounce and Ike Perlmutter and Jay Rizzullo and Blackwell's Capital and stuff like that, I think it's a right mess. And I think all of this is a distraction from what they need to get on with right now. Disney needs to be more laser focused than ever. Right now, Disney's almost in their Apple moment, their Apple of 1997 moment. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he needed to clear out a lot of the leadership. He needed to clear out a lot of the thinking on the way they'd been going about things, and he needs to refocus on creativity, innovation, and what Apple actually stood for. And I think Disney needs to do the same thing right now. They need to re-engage what they are truly about. And I do think, from a standpoint of within the executive run, I think a lot of people have failed upwards. That's probably a controversial thing to say, but, you know, I do think people have failed upwards, and I think people are hanging around for too long, and I think people need to be, you know, we need fresh blood in there, to be honest. We need fresh perspectives, and I wouldn't be opposed to the next CEO of a Disney company being an outsider. I think it'd be preferential for it to be an outsider. Someone who can come in with fresh ideas, look at the company with fresh eyes and say, hey, teach me about the company, a bit like Michael Eisner did, teach me about the company, and my fresh perspective will then not be weighed down with all this previous stuff that I've heard. I will then make my opinions based upon that. And but it needs to be somebody who has an entertainment creativity background. It can't. I don't think Disney's a tech company. They are a creativity company first and foremost. The parks are creative. The parks are creative, the entertainment business is creative. They're not a tech-based business. Yes, there's a lot of technology within Disney, but they don't need a tech CEO. They need who just looks to maximize profits, and because we're just heading down the wrong direction there. We need someone who cares about what Disney, the characters, the legacy of Disney really matter. And I think you won't get that with a tech perspective. So yeah, we need someone creative to come in, someone who's maybe run another studio or something like that, who's on the way up, maybe an outsider. Hey, I'll put my name forward, like that would even happen or even matter. But anyway, Orange Grove 55 says, much love, Jack, working so can't hang out too long, but keep up the wonderful work. Thank you. That's Christopher over at Orange Grove 55. Thank you for the super chat there, Chris. And yeah, go check out Orange Grove 55 as well. I've been on there quite a few times in the past few months, joining Chris and George over there on Orange Grove 55 to talk about some Disney stuff. And highly recommend going and checking them out as well. Okay, so we're coming up to the hour mark here. I'm going to have to call it a day because it's coming to an hour, and as it says here, I'm a Disney dad, and I've got a little one who's only 7 months old, and he needs to go to bed, and he needs his dad to help put him to bed. So sorry for that, everybody. I'm going to have to cut it short soon. I've just noticed the time. It is 7 o'clock almost, and so he does need to go down for bed soon. So just a few more minutes, and then we'll end the live stream. But yeah, I don't think. Oh, someone said here everyone is laying off. Yeah, a lot of these tech companies are laying off at the moment. We're seeing a lot, and this is more about Wall Street desperately demanding profitability year on year profitability. And it gets to a certain point where they can't expand their reach within the consumer base. They reach a bit of a barrier in terms of what the audience and the user will take in terms of, price increases. And so therefore the next thing is to optimize and do optimization strategies by laying people off, and then it looks like they're turning a profit. And I think a lot of this, drive for profitability is what's behind these layoffs. At the moment. Right. Someone said, that's how corporate America works. Fail up, blame your last fail on someone else. Yeah, it probably is. I don't know. I'm not in corporate America, so I don't know. Never been in corporate America. Oh, we'll come back very quickly. Give you my idea for Animation Courtyard. Animation Courtyard, before Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway was ever opened, I thought, well, before they, when they announced it for Great Movie Ride, I thought they should have built that back there. Knock down Launch Bay, build Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, do a Toontown over an Animation Courtyard. It would keep the kind of idea of Animation Courtyard, but make it Toontown. However, now obviously that's not going to happen. I think if Zootopia is to go anywhere, in any one of the parks at Walt Disney World, the Zootopia themed land, I think where it makes the most sense would be Animation Courtyard. If Disney's in the happenstance of cloning a land like Zootopia and wanting to bring it to Walt Disney World, I think Animation Courtyard makes most sense. Likewise, I think another Pixar property would make sense back there as well. And Monsters Inc. I would love to see Monsters Inc. back there. I think they could retheme the gates, the arch of Disney's Hollywood Studio. They could retheme that to more of a Monsters Inc., like the Monsters University campus kind of thing. I think Monsters Inc. would be a great idea back there. I also think, and here's another thing, if they ever wanted to move Muppets Vision 3D and expand Galaxy's Edge out that way into Grand Avenue and join up with Star Tours, more Galaxy's Edge, expansion to Galaxy's Edge there with Muppets Courtyard, I would say Muppet Vision, but they won't do it because it would mean taking an existing attraction, porting it over to the other side of the park, and spending money to build a whole new building, which is just cloning the same attraction. But they could do upgrades to the attraction whilst they're there. But I think a Muppets area there would work as well. But those are the things that I would like to see with Animation Courtyard. I'd love to hear what you all would do with Animation Courtyard as well. Hopefully this live stream, this earnings call, I haven't been too annoyed throughout the whole thing. Because obviously there are things to be annoyed about at the moment with Disney. There's a lot of mess that you know, there's a lot of people out there at the moment as well who are purposely, there's a lot of money to be made out of being negative towards Disney at the moment and kicking the mouse. And I'm not in the business of kicking the mouse. I'm not in the business of praising the mouse. I'm in the business of being direct, straight and honest with you and balanced, hopefully. And yeah, I think Andre actually said it in a video not too long ago. He said the grift goes both ways. You know, people who are Disney shills, pixie dusters, they'll go one way and they'll make money off it that way by just saying everything's great at Disney, you know. And then there's people who are the Disney haters out there, and they can make just as much money, if not more money, by hating Disney at the moment. Because that's the way the internet is. And I don't like to say that because the world isn't like that. The world is messy. The world is murky. It is areas of grey. And, you know, I can't be wholeheartedly, I hate Disney, I hate what they're doing. I can't be wholeheartedly, I love Disney, I love what they're doing. I have to be balanced because that's all I can give to the world is some logic and a bit of common sense. And, you know, although I might be shouting to a void, you know, it's hopefully people look at things a little bit more in perspective and have a bit more context when it comes to these things, because nothing's as clear cut as it's made out online on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube or anything. You know, it's never as clear cut as it's made out, and there's always murkiness to it. And even some stuff I've said here today, there'll be people out there who'll, you know, think, oh, I disagree with that, and that's completely fine. People might agree with it, that's completely fine as well. We're here, we're all you know, Disney fans at the end of the day, hopefully, and, you know, we want to see the best for the company, that, you know, so it can live on for the next generation. That's what I care about. So yeah, there we go. Let's just I think we've reached a point now in the video. We're an hour long in. I need to go take care of some dad duties here, so I need to go sing my little boy off to sleep. So with that being said, and I hear the dogs outside the window as well. just outside the door, barking at the window. So with all that being said for today, really enjoyed the chat. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you. I'll have a look back through a lot of these comments as well here. But with all that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.